Diving into our questions here on bankruptcy and insolvency, we see our first question says that Jones files for protection under Chapter 7 of the Federal Bankruptcy Code. Which of the following debts will be discharged? As you see this question, all of the information we've gone through together, all of the fact that Chapter 7 is liquidation, everything should be flowing through your mind. Consider everything that we've gone through. And as we see this, what is going to be discharged? Well, first we have accrued utility bills. And I'm thinking there's no reason that wouldn't be discharged, so I'm going to leave that sitting as a possible answer. Next, we have 6 months of child support in arrears. That's not getting discharged. You got to pay your child support regardless of bankruptcy. Sorry to say, but you're stuck with that. 6 months of alimony due to Jones's former spouse. Same deal there. You're stuck. You got to pay that. You can't get that discharged. Lastly, federal taxes due on Jones's timely filed tax return for the prior year. Doesn't matter if it's timely filed or untimely or anything like that. Federal taxes, yeah, you're not getting discharged with that. You're going to have to pay that regardless. The IRS doesn't care if you're going bankrupt. You have to pay your taxes. Final answer here is going to be letter A. You will most likely get your accrued utility bills discharged. Moving on next, we've got a question here that says an individual client asks a CPA to determine whether the client is solvent for federal tax purposes. Now, very simply, as we've gone over, what is solvency? It's if your liabilities are overwhelming your assets. If you've got too many and you're not making enough income, that means you're insolvent. Generally, if you think back even to financial, to the balance sheet, that's solvency. Solvency ratios deal with the balance sheet, deal with liabilities in excess of assets. That would mean you're insolvent. Now, that's obviously super general, and that's why we have a question like this where it actually deals with the numbers. We're seeing the intricacies of such a concept. Now, the client has assets consisting of cash and marketable securities with a basis of $250,000 and a fair market value of $155,000. Doesn't look very good. Sorry to see that your marketable securities have significantly declined in value. Sucks to see. The client has liabilities of $175,000, which include $130,000 of non-dischargeable liabilities under the Bankruptcy Code. As we saw in a prior question, that could be child support, alimony, taxes. So there are many items that are not dischargeable: student loan debt, certain tax debt, court-ordered fines and restitution. A lot of items such as those. So that's what that consists of. Now, which of the following statements here is going to be correct? First, we have the CPA is unable to determine whether the client is solvent or insolvent because the CPA is not an accredited appraiser. That's not the case. Just simply put, we are seeing questions like this, and if you're taking this exam, I'm going to go under the assumption you're not a licensed CPA yet. If you can even figure it out as part of the CPA exam's questions, the AICPA's questions, yeah, CPA can do this, right? If we're doing it just as exam candidates, then you can be sure that a CPA will be able to do it. We can do that as a CPA. That's totally fine. The client is solvent because the fair market value of the client's assets exceeds the client's non-dischargeable debt by $25,000. Well, just as a good check, regardless of the first part of this, let's just see if that's true. That's a great way to eliminate possible answer choices. Is let's just see if the statement they're saying is true. The fair market value of the assets, which is 155, is greater than the non-dischargeable liabilities of 130. So that is true. It is 25,000. But that would be a great way to catch them, because if that was wrong, well, guess what? We wouldn't choose this answer regardless of what the prior portion of the answer said. But reading this, the client is solvent because the fair market value of the assets exceeds the non-dischargeable debts. Well, the non-dischargeable debts, we're not going to take these into account because they're non-dischargeable. We are going to be worried about just the overall liabilities. We're going to be worried about the 175 because since this is non-dischargeable, we will not consider this in terms of solvency. That answer is incorrect. Next up, the client is solvent because the basis of the assets totals $250 and exceeds the client's liabilities by $75,000. Well, we're not going to be worried about the basis here. That is a distractor. The basis of the assets, I mean, sure, is basis incredibly important throughout the exam? It totally is, as you've seen. But for the purposes here, we're worried about the fair market value. We're going to cross off letter C because of that. Final answer here, we're going to read through it. The client is insolvent since the client's liabilities exceed the fair market value of the assets by 20. Let's just take a look. Again, check their math. Well, the liabilities are 175. The fair market value of the assets is 155. Looks like that is true. That is 20,000. Just make sure we see solvent, solvent, insolvent. Just make sure this makes sense. They're insolvent because the liabilities exceed the assets. So again, check every portion. Be neurotic. Check every portion of the explanations of the answers. Yes, this all makes sense. Makes sense independently, and it makes sense in terms of this question. So I'm going to go with final answer here is letter And there we have it. So practical examples, some great things that we're running through here. Keep practicing questions, keep doing what you're doing, and you will be good to go. Hey there! Are you ready to not only pass your CPA exams, but truly understand and enjoy the material while studying? I know it seems impossible, right? Especially to enjoy the material? We'll do it together. Tap into the power of CPA.examprep.ai, where we've got personalized quizzes, multiple choice questions, memorization guides, flashcards, simulations, all tailored to your learning. Our adaptive study planning puts you on the fastest path to success and lifts you back up if you fall behind. Avoid wasting your precious time and money attempting an exam with a low chance of passing, because who wants that? We want to get you through this process as quick as possible. Our exam readiness prediction lets you walk in with confidence, knowing that you're prepared for success on exam day. Thankfully, there's no payment method needed to get started, so why don't you come join us? Visit cpa.examprep.ai and let's achieve your exam success together.